Did he offer her 10? Because if you notice, peep this, he had a different set of lawyers, and then he switched his lawyer, and then all of a sudden the $100 million comes out, and the lawsuit comes out, and then he attacks. So a different game plan it looks like, whatever that may be. But the lawyer preemptively said that he tried to settle for 10 or tens of millions. Whoever says that? So I don't know if Shannon said, here's 10, and she said no, because make sense of that. Why would you say no to 10 to go fight for 50 and you probably don't even get that? He's the second lawyer. Lanny's the second one. He said, I wasn't in those settlement talks, but there was conversation of 10 and tens of millions. See, peep the language here.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't there, but I heard tens, because that slants it to say, man, he offered her that. Guilty, but man, he offered her that. He trying to get rid of this.
Marcellus Wiley talks about Shannon Sharpe legal strategy backfiring. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
Damn, I was like, money grab. But then I was like,
It was.
before I could even digest money grab, he came out on the attack. And when he came out on the attack, the first thing I thought, because obviously I got experience with this stuff, I was like, damn, this don't sound like this happened in the 90s. This don't sound like it happened with Jay-Z in the 2000s, which never happened, right? I was like, this sound like this just happened.
Last week,
right? So when I thought that, I was like, I hope he is thinking forward, because if you talking about something that just happened, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah, talking about something that just happened within the last 2 to 3 years in this day and age of social media, people recording, screenshotting text messages, video. It could be damning for Shannon Sharpe if he doesn't play his cards right. People are talking about his legal strategy backfiring, but at the same time, you want to get ahead of certain situations, but you don't want to just throw all your cards out on the table without having a couple in your back pocket when this thing goes to trial. You didn't really sway the court of public opinion if you're Shannon Sharpe all the way. Some people know, okay, this is a money grab, but the people that you work for, Disney, ESPN, they don't really care what it looks like. If it sounds like you did something or it looks damning, that you may have choked somebody, even if you didn't, the audio's out there, potential videos out there. Shannon Sharpe, he's messed up right now.
Text messages is just a mediation you just had. You probably were just in settlement talks. Something bad could have happened. This person got all kind of different ammunition. One of the reasons Jay-Z came out so strong is, one, he's like, I don't even know the girl. But two, ain't nothing they could say or do that hasn't been done. Because it's 20-some years old. If you had something, you would have came. But you got nothing, this is all you got.
Yeah, with the Jay-Z situation, even though Shannon Sharpe tried to kind of compare the two with Tony Busby going after black men and the Jay-Z thing, Jay-Z situation was allegedly 20 plus years ago, which I think everyone knows is a lie. Just the whole story of the young person and the whatever, however they tried to play that situation out. He proved that Tony Busby was capping. It was all a lie. And you got to be mindful of certain cases that you're bringing to the light and try to file on the behalf of alleged accusers. So with Shannon Sharpe, it's different. You're in a day and age with social media, text messages, everything. There's a lot of content that accuser has on Shannon to paint him in a certain way. Jay-Z didn't have that with his alleged claim. So it's two different things if you're trying to compare Shannon Sharpe and the Jay-Z situation.
And I was sitting there like, Shannon, be careful. And then when he came out on the attack, you always know when you play offense, somebody playing defense, and they get paid too. And boy, that response kind of threw me off.
And when I saw him put the text message out, the first thing I wondered, is he doing this as a reaction, or did his lawyers tell him to do this? Because it almost seemed like he just like jumped out there in defense mode, which
he had to because they had so much sauce already. They had
because they had the lawsuit already.
Yeah,
true. But most lawyers would tell you don't say anything.
Yeah,
even no matter what they say, because you're not going to win in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, traditionally, most lawyers will tell you, shut up, we'll do all the talking, we'll release a statement that you can read, but don't go out there and jump out the window when we're still trying to, build out this case in your favor. But we're in a day and age in social media. He has a high-profile job. You want to try to sway the court of public opinion from the fans, the people that support you, and your employers and sponsors. So I understand why he kind of jumped out there and tried to put out the text messages, and then he put out that video. But when the lawyer was like, we tried to settle for tens of millions of dollars, minimum 10 million, I think that's where people kind of scratch their head like, why are you throwing out number amounts, dollar amounts? I think you should keep that stuff behind the scenes. But they thought an alleged video was going to come out with Shannon Sharpe and that Accuser. And now Tony Busby was like, okay, we just going to let them talk themselves into a hole, lose the court of public opinion, and try to destroy Shannon Sharpe in court.
Just let it play out. I think because he saw.
Well, Jay-Z wanted a court of public opinion.
Well,
no?
yeah, and I think
Different
when Jay-Z
situations.
did it, people were saying that too. But he was the first one that reacted like that, and it actually worked in his favor.
Yeah.
But usually, everybody who's been accused, they always say, "Don't say nothing." I mean, I get why he did it.
Oh, it didn't work for me? I don't stop.
I mean,
I don't know, dog.
They just gonna keep shooting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you try to defend every one of them, after a while, like if you never say anything, I feel like sometimes it just quietly goes away. But once you start responding, now you're going to get into a back and forth, and you're bringing more attention to it.
That you respond because there's actual facts there, and because he knows this girl, and because he has texts, and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why he got to get in front of it, man, because it's real.
I would have probably responded.
You know what I'm saying? It's like a real thing that's happening, and there's so much. She has so much. Like,
So much.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, she got a lot of content on Shannon, but I think I would have personally maybe did a little response. But if you're trying to go back and forth with somebody when you got a lot on the line, I think you just throw that initial response out there, assess the situation, maybe try to compare and contrast other situations from famous people being accused, and see what type of direction you want to take. Again, with Jay-Z and his alleged claim and the lawsuit, whatever, I think everybody knew it was capped. But you can get ahead of that if you're Jay-Z and just the crazy allegations made toward him. You kind of had to get in front of that if you're Jay-Z and really speak with your legal team, of course. But with Shannon Sharpe, maybe he didn't assess the situation completely. Maybe his strategy backfired. It's possible, but he still has time to prove himself innocent until proven guilty. But right now it's looking bad for Shannon Sharpe as far as his job at Disney and ESPN, his sponsors with Nightcap and Club Shay Shay. Things are kind of, coming apart for Shannon Sharpe. Hopefully he can get his stuff back together and prove his innocence.
Like that's where, as somebody as a prominent figure, as big of a year that he's had, that year was, the podcast was 2-3 years old. Like, so he's been dealing with her for 2-3 years ago. You got to do better, man. You got to know better. Like, you can't get caught slipping like that when you're that big.
Also, offering the $10 million says guilt. I mean, like,
Nah. Here you go, going back to church to find a good girl. This mother sucker.
Now, offering to pay $10 million doesn't mean Shannon Sharpe is guilty. He just wanted to kind of not have this headache out there, having all these allegations, him looking bad, his face looking dirty, being contextualized as far as, let me try to paint this narrative this way. He tried to choke me or wanted to choke me and I didn't want to do it. And just a lot of stuff with this case. You can paint Shannon Sharpe as the worst person in history. That's what he was trying to avoid, if that was true as far as wanting to pay upwards of $10 million. I get it. Not everybody that's being accused and that makes a payout in a settlement, it doesn't mean they're guilty. They just don't want to have this huge media storm and lose potential opportunities. Shannon Sharpe was in line to make $100+ million with his podcast media deal. He has a lot of people underneath the Shay Shay media brand, a lot of podcasts, a lot of sponsors, his job at ESPN and Disney. He knew that if these claims go out there like that and him being painted as this big black guy that's choking people, he was going to lose a lot. So I understand why he offered to pay a lot of money. Maybe this shouldn't have been put out there in the forefront by the lawyer. That's where a lot of people are like, don't put out these dollar amounts. Maybe you save that for behind the scenes. But when it gets released to the public, a lot of people are going to be like, maybe Shannon Sharpe did do something.
But see,
Hey,
that is public opinion.
That is public opinion.
you want to keep the mouth
It ain't
hush.
true, but that's
let's
public
keep it
opinion.
under the rug. So let me offer you that.
Well, Trip, that is not true because
That's
you
a
know what?
financial play.
One, we would never be able to prove this because it's like proving a negative. It's proving something that we don't know. But there are a lot of prominent people who have settled out of court. You don't know anything about it, right?
Of course, happens
And
every day.
now and then you'll hear about it. Like I think there was one time they unearthed some Jerry Jones settlements, and they were like, "Oh, see." But Jerry's like, all right, for 10, 20, 30, 50 years, you didn't know that, and you're not supposed to be able to
went
do
up a
that.
bag.
So guilt doesn't mean settlement. But what happened in this one was interesting is, did he offer her 10? Because if you notice, peep this, he had a different set of lawyers, and then he switched his lawyer, and then all of a sudden the $100 million comes out, and the lawsuit comes out, and then he attacks. So a different game plan, it looks like, whatever that may be. But the lawyer preemptively said that he tried to settle for 10 or tens of millions. Whoever says that, because of the court of public opinion, is going to think.
Yeah, maybe the lawyer misspoke. Maybe he wasn't really thinking when he had that little conference call with all the media people. I think looking back, he would probably not say that there was an offer made for 10 million or tens of millions. If he would have kind of kept that quiet and then everything else played out like how it's playing out now, maybe it's not that bad. He got Shannon Sharpe on the offensive end, throwing out these messages and trying to paint his narrative. Then you would have had her team, paint a narrative her way, in her favor. So that $10 million figure, I think that was the one where people are kind of like, damn, why would Shannon Sharpe offer this amount of money? Why would you even want to pay $1 if you're innocent? But sometimes you try to shut things up so it doesn't look a certain way, like you're looking guilty in the court of public opinion.
Think you guilty. Yep. So what I'm thinking is maybe he didn't offer it, and that's why they never settled. Maybe that was her offer, and he was debating it, and finally she either caught wind of the $100 million, or two, she was like, dog, it's been 2 months. You ain't gonna do it? Forget it. I'm about to file. And something like that. So I don't know if Shannon said, here's 10, and she said no. Because make sense of that. Why would you say no to 10 to go fight for 50, and you probably don't even get that?
Well, but Shannon's lawyer said they offered 10.
Shannon's lawyers.
Lanny Davis quoted, we offered $10 million.
The new lawyer.
New lawyer
I don't think the word offered was in there.
Oh, it was in there.
Okay.
It was in there.
It could have been.
And the reason I know that is because my lawyer friends right off the bat were like, that didn't happen. Yeah. So I pulled it up and I read the quote from his lawyer. I was like, no, his lawyer says we offered $10 million.
But he didn't say we because he wasn't the lawyer that offered it. He's the second lawyer. Lanny's the second one. He said, I wasn't in those settlement talks, but there was conversation of 10 and tens of millions. See, peep the language here.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't there, but I heard tens because that slants it to say, man, he offered her that. Guilty, but man, he offered her that. He trying to get rid of this.
Yeah, as far as Shannon switching legal teams, that's where you have a conflict there. Maybe his current representation, Lanny or whoever, and his team, maybe they would have been like, we're not offering anything. If you want to fight this, let's go ahead and fight this without offering a dollar amount. Let's let it play out a little bit longer, and then you try to offer whatever if it gets kind of crazy. But by him switching teams like that, you got one strategy here, then you got a new strategy over there. But at the same time, if your current lawyer of Shannon Sharpe, did you really want to throw out those figures like that? Was it really worth it? Why would you put that out there if you didn't have a strategy behind saying that? I think he was just talking, lost his train of thought, put those numbers out there, and now it makes Shannon Sharpe look like maybe he did do something wrong. That's where they kind of made a misstep, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. Shannon Sharpe ain't looking good right now.
And they didn't accept it, which makes me think it wasn't really offered. Who walking away from 10 on OnlyFans when to go fight the good fight for 50?
It don't make
She's not
sense.
gonna get no 50.
Yeah, I don't think she
Might not even win. It's up in the air.
I think she fought. I think she didn't take the 10 because she knew how much she had on him with the conversation. And if there is a sex tape that allegedly there is, that Shannon came out and said there is,
But you don't win in court off a sex tape.
it's not.
But
But I'm
it was
just saying
consensual.
that she knew she could get more if she has more ammo in the tank. If the only thing that we've seen is these text messages and the phone conversation, whatever, if that's it, but Shannon came out and said there's a sex tape.
But that ain't a crime, the sex tape. So I think
It's true,
I
but
think-
what's on
But
that tape?
it's going to make him look different.
Bro,
and
what's
he
on
already
that
has
tape?
admitted
It's
that.
what's on that tape?
Oh, yeah,
It's the
of course.
optics.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the
Yeah, it's all about the optics. No matter what it looks like, no matter if it's he didn't do anything, if they can paint it a certain way, now you got the text messages. Now you got the audio of him, talking about choking her. And then if you have that type of tape that shows that type of act, even though it may have been consensual, she may have wanted to, play that type of role. Now she's coming back and be like, I didn't want to do that, or whatever. However she's alleging these claims and painting her narrative, it's still going to look bad for Shannon Sharpe. As far as optics and the court of public opinion, he could lose a lot with this case.
optics with the text messages and the alleged tape. So it's a whole lot of
it's
red
nasty.
flags.
Don't forget who you are. When Ray Rice and everything was written and in text about what he did, we had one reaction, and then we saw that video.
Right,
Yep,
right.
video.
right.
Even with Diddy, it was like you heard. I don't know if that's true or not. Then you saw that
yeah.
video,
You're like, oh,
like that
shit.
video. Yeah.
And see, what I think Shannon messed up is he tried to take the Jay-Z route, where Jay-Z responded, but left it at that. He just gave a public response,
Yeah.
and you never heard nothing else from him. Shannon's doing the back and forth thing, and I think that's also what played into the ESPN situation, because had he not said anything, or just gave a basic response and let it go to court, nobody's really talking about it. But because he's doing the back and forth with her online, it's drawing more attention. The more people go back, everybody's sitting there
But
watching.
help me, I think Jay-Z did go back for it. He put out the first one. He was
did,
like,
in a
this is
sense.
BS and BS.
And
Then he
the
came
lawyer,
out.
The lawyer said something after.
Yeah, and then from his team. So then they were like, and then he was like, now we're going to sue you for defamation, and this better go away and get
But
dismissed.
those are legal responses.
Okay.
But
At the end of the day, yeah, they may have been legal responses, however it plays out. But at the end of the day, they have legal representation. Every person that's being represented by a team, they have to sign off on it. So Jay-Z may have been like, yo, I want to sue for defamation. He's not going to put it out there on social media like that. They're going to draft up a script, put it out there on his social media channels, and then go back and forth with his response. So it looks like Jay-Z and his lawyer may have been aligned more than Shannon Sharpe and his current legal team. And then you got to assess the situation. There's no audio, video, or anything with Jay-Z, and there's a lot of content on Shannon Sharpe's end with audio and video and text and just everything that could make him look bad. So if you're Shannon Sharpe and his legal team, maybe they didn't assess that situation good. Look at current accusations with megastars. I think he overplayed his hand and didn't really play his cards right.
Shannon's, it was not legal response. It's like a tit for tat.
Yeah, but Jay-Z actually did it too. He actually filed defamation.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how you knew he was serious.
He was coming
But
at
that's what the dude Lanny, that's what he said they're going to do too.
Going
up. See, once again,
But
we
when
got
Jay-Z first said it, he hadn't did it yet either.
Yeah, but they went ahead and did it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to give him that same.
That shit takes about an hour.
True.
It takes no time.
Yeah, so Shannon Sharpe, man, he's in a world of trouble. Hopefully he can prove his innocence. He got a huge mountain to climb as far as proclaiming his innocence and at least trying to save his career, losing his sponsors, potentially losing his deal with ESPN. So we'll see what happens moving forward with Shannon Sharpe.